or global, affecting women from everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in to another PPCM chat. We have Dr.Miasha on the line today, and we would love to be able to engage with her on learning about her story and just with PPCM, how it was brought into her life, and then for her to be able to advocate her way into the film world. And I'm just very excited to hear this story. So you guys tune in, and we're going to let her take the floor. All right, Miss Aisha, let us know what happened to you with the PPCM diagnosis.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Brianna, for this platform, and thank you for the wonderful work that you are doing as far as PPCM. Congrats on all of your successes that you have had so far. Like she said, I am Dr. Miasha Gilliam L. I am now 47 years old, and when this took place, I was 37 years old. So my PPCM baby is about to be 10 on the 22nd of February. So I'm very excited and glad that I am here to even be able to share this story with you all. My story began with my 6th pregnancy. I never had any issues with any other previous pregnancies. No, I didn't have any health problems prior. No heart conditions, no kidney conditions, nothing. I ate fairly healthy because I was a vegan probably for about 2 years of my life. So I'm very health conscious by me being a nurse. So I took very good care of myself. I noticed that during this pregnancy, I had some different things happening. And as many of you know, and as you know, Brianna, a lot of times we're told every pregnancy is different. So, you know, they kind of brush you off a little bit because maybe you're a medical professional and they think you're being a little over the top or paranoid. And, you know, so they don't really take it seriously at some point. And so I kept saying that it was unusual for me to have swelling. I never had any swelling during any of my other pregnancies. I didn't have any kind of indigestion during any of my pregnancies or that heavy feeling in my chest. I never had elevated blood pressure during any of my other pregnancies, which this was totally different for me. And the best way that I can explain it is that I had a doom or gloom feeling. I knew something was not right. I just couldn't tell what it was. And I had a hard time kind of conveying it so that they would understand that they needed to really pay close attention to it because I was already going to a high-risk clinic at the time. But due to my age and not even because of my blood pressure, they were more concerned about the age that I was and having a 6th pregnancy. So to make a long story short, I was being followed by the high-risk clinic. I went in for one of my appointments, one of my last appointments. And at that appointment, I noticed that I had a headache. You know, I wasn't quite feeling like myself. And I was persistent in saying, you guys need to recheck my blood pressure because they had checked it and it was a little elevated, but I felt like it was rising. I felt like it was getting worse. And so I said, you really need to recheck my blood pressure. And when they did that, they realized that my blood pressure was sky high. So they immediately sent me to the hospital to deliver. And during the delivery process, I had to have magnesium because they thought I was going to stroke out during my delivery. Then after that, I was in recovery and everything. I kept complaining about headaches, about, you know, having that heavy feel in my chest, about not quite feeling like myself. I was sent home anyway with kind of an elevated blood pressure. They said due to the stress of delivery, my blood pressure was going to be kind of elevated. And I was sent home. Well, while I was home, I already had 5 children at home, and then I had the baby, and my husband was there with me, thank God. But I just noticed that I just started to feel a little worse each day, and I was nursing the baby, and I just felt like I was feeling worse each day, more fatigued, more of a headache. You know, the headache was now a pounding headache, like a migraine. And so by that second day that I was home, I was like, I'm just gonna probably go get checked out, you know. And my husband was on the verge of taking the children to the bus stop that morning. And for some reason, he kept looking at me going, "Are you okay?" He never does that. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just feel a little bit of indigestion," you know, because I didn't quite know if he would understand if I said I got heaviness in my chest. That might have scared the daylights out of him. So I said, "You know, I just have a little bit of indigestion." He's like, "You want me to stay here?" I'm like, "No, just take the children to the bus stop. I'll be fine." Well, little did I know that there was a process starting to brew within my body. And, you know, I'm telling him to go ahead, you know, because I didn't feel at that point it was an emergency. But after he left, I went to stand to go to the bathroom because I had to go to the bathroom, push the baby over in the bed. And, you know, I was going to go to the restroom, and I immediately fell to my knees. And it felt as if I was drowning on the inside. I felt like somebody was literally holding me underwater, and I just I couldn't breathe. And I had to get down the stairs. I had to get to the neighbor. I had to get the neighbor to open the door for me. I didn't want to exert myself and put clothes on because, you know, I was like, I'm going to be using energy and taking more of my breath away. But I realized that it was actually my dream coming to pass, and that it was happening now. And it was like go time. You know, I have to not panic. I have to stay focused. I have to make sure. And I kept saying to myself, I am not going to die like this in the house alone with the infant baby. I'm not going to die like this. So to make a long story short, I got to the ER. Literally, they were cutting my clothes off. I was still awake during this process. It took me 45 minutes to get to the hospital, which was 6 minutes away because we had to wait for the ambulance. I was not put on a heart monitor. I was not given oxygen. I walked to the ambulance. And so that was a bit of a problem for me as well. When I got to the hospital, they were asking me all these questions. It was very chaotic. Now, I've been on the other side of the table as a nurse, but actually being the patient and seeing how chaotic it is, I've realized since then that there's some changes that need to be made, you know, and, you know, that's part of where my advocacy came in, because you can't talk when you can't breathe. So it's not important to you what your insurance is or what your address is at that time when you're trying to focus on breathing and you have people cutting your clothes off and everything else going on. So I looked at the respiratory therapist because they were going back and forth whether to put me on a BiPAP machine or, you know, whether to give me that sedation vacation, because she thought it was inhumane to leave me breathing like that for that long. For which I agree. You know, it was traumatic. It caused a lot of anxiety. And so the last thing I remember is getting very short of breath and feeling dizzy and kind of seeing those spots before my eyes. And I looked at her and I felt the tears rolling down my eyes. And I said, "Why aren't you helping me?" You know, it was the only person I could direct that frustration to. And she picked up the story from there. She said, I began to foam at the mouth, which we know is pulmonary edema. And I coded for 10 minutes. They had to do CPR on me, trying to revive me. My heart stopped for the 10 minutes. They actually told my husband that I was deceased and stopped working on me, left me in the room, had him to come in to say his goodbyes to me. And he said he came in and he kissed me. He said, of course, I was a basket case at the time. We had other people from the church in the waiting room. And he said when he came out of the waiting room, he had just accepted the fact, you know, in his mind that I was gone just that fast after having a baby 2 days prior. He said, after a few minutes, they were running out to him saying, "Oh, we don't know what happened, but we have her heartbeat back and we're going to take her to ICU." So praise God for that. But it was a very, very long journey for me. I realized that I was on the ventilator for 3 days. The first day I wasn't even breathing on my own at all. So I was 3 days without being able to see my son, you know, and I guess they brought him up to me and would lay him on me just so that we can kind of have a bond with each other. And it was just around the clock prayer from the church members, from my school friends that were in nursing. And I like to say God knew exactly what he was doing, because my friends that I graduated with were some of the nurses that helped to take care of me. And I feel like they were strategically placed because the one in the ER, she was there with me to make sure that everything went smoothly. Then when I went to the ICU, I had about 6 or 7 of the people that I graduated with that were taking care of me up there. And so when I came off of that ventilator, you know, I had an out-of-body experience, of course, that I talk about, and I heard the Lord say, not yet. And as I heard that, they were pulling that vent out of my mouth, and 7 days I was in the hospital, and I came home on that 7th day. And I am just so happy about that. But one of the reasons why I fight so hard to bring awareness is because prevention is better than cure. And I feel like if they would have listened more, instead of it being a textbook, looked at as like a textbook preeclampsia case, then maybe I would not have had to go through the things and have all of these life-changing things that are still occurring to this day, because PPCM even affects us after, you know, the diagnosis is over. We still have to live with this. We still have to function with these after effects. So I feel like it's my responsibility now to educate, to talk to different people, and to share my story.
Amen. Oh, I love this so much. Oh my goodness. You just threw everything out there. And I just love the perspective of coming from the medical field into being a patient, and, you know, then turning into an advocate, and, you know, which still in the medical world. So it's like you get to live that, you know, both sides. And oh my God, such a story. I'm so grateful that you are still here with us. Oh, it just, you know, and then dealing with the fact of, like you said, the aftermath, you know, the part that people don't know or don't get to follow into our journey, because once we get told, even if we're recovered, you know, or if we in recovery, you know, it's like, well, I still deal with palpitations, or I still go through this, and my heart still beats, and, you know, it's like people don't understand, oh, when you recover, it's like, well, I still go through symptoms, you know, and so it's, and a lot of people aren't going to know unless we talk about it, or unless we, you know, educate them on, this is what you may go through or deal with if you had this diagnosis, you know. So that's the reason why, you know, we had to start a platform so where we can be able to actually publicly speak out about it, because, you know, not so many people like to read the stories, or not to read, you know, some people like to listen in and actually get that, you know, that the vocal education. That's what I'm saying. 'Cause, you know, everybody are different learners, and we respect that. I thank you so much for coming on and just speaking your story and your testimony to us. We do have our heart sister, our secretary, Bobby, on the line today. Say hey, Bobby. Is there anything, Bobby, that you would like to say or speak on while we have the doctor on the line?
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely love, I can resonate with that story, because mine was so much the same. 2 weeks later, you know, I went through that same situation that she did, very similar. Couldn't breathe, felt like I was drowning, had my baby at home by myself. Exactly the story. So I am so glad that she's on the medical side as well as our side, because she can make the difference. That's the difference that we need on that side to tell this story. Amen. And that is absolutely amazing.
I agree.
And I'm glad that she did.
Yes, and see, Bobby had survived a cardiac arrest as well. And when she went into cardiac arrest, I believe it was 2 weeks later. And what happened, Bobby? Or 2 weeks later, but you had just put the baby to sleep, right?
I just put the baby to sleep. I had my life vest, thank God, because the week prior, I think it was the week prior, I started having those symptoms. And I was running back and forth to the bathroom. I could barely get there without sweating, without my heart racing. I couldn't breathe, so it caused me to go to the emergency room that night, and they prescribed me the life vest. And so couple of weeks after that, my timing might be off, but a little bit after that, that's when I went into that cardiac arrest, and the life vest brought me back. And so, yeah, that was crazy.
Yes, yes. So I'm just so thankful for to have you ladies as survivors, because we also know we have lost a lot of sisters, including my own sister, losing their lives behind this, and because no one is speaking up about it. And, it takes so much strength out of us to be able to even be able to talk and want to teach people about something that is so personal, So I just thank y'all so much for your transparency and being able to educate others, and, not even just PPCM survivors, because obviously it brings them to the page. Once you get this diagnosis, who am I going to turn to? Who can relate? And that's where we come into play. So I just love what you all are doing. I thank y'all so much for y'all help and y'all continuous support and helping with Let's Talk PPCM. We are going to talk PPCM until we can't talk PPCM no more. So I just thank you so much. And thank you again for our doctor coming on today, being able to educate us from the medical side field, and just being able to tell her personal story and how she got involved in the advocacy world of PPCM. So thank you so much again. And we are going to close out our session for today. I'll have a blessed day until we see
You too.
you.
Thank you.